Okay, so the framework, so the script. I've been really wrestling with script. Script is clearly not the right way to explain it. Um, Nor the word nor the description is the right way to explain it at all. And I was trying to think of like what is an adequate way of expressing what I'm trying to express here. And what I came down to is it's like, okay, so the stand-in word, at least the stand-in letter that I'm putting into the equation for now to say what I'm trying to say, is just the letter T for truth. Because that really is the way to explain it, I think, is it's like a truth gradient. Like the way that you understand, the way that I understood Orbify is like the more that I truly understood it and believed it and like literally could feel that I was the orb. I could feel that I was the man in the orb. And the more in this one that I can literally feel, I can feel that I am the simulation feeling itself. You know what I mean? I can feel my place and the infinite. That's what it is. It's when it's truth. It is the amount that you believe it. And yeah, that's something interesting that I'd like to just kind of speak with Jacques about. Is it's like my ability to like understand that there are parts of the story which are not true, and yet understand that it's a simplified version of truth, and that when I scale my belief in this untrue story up, it increases my efficiency. Therefore, I don't care about what actual truth is. I only care about the actions that it creates. You know what I mean? Like that's sort of what truth is. Truth is relative to power, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Um, yeah. Lately, I've just been thinking a lot about it. It's like, yeah, Nietzsche is the best like philosopher ever. Like he clearly wins that um category. So now it just comes down to basically using Nietzsche and the Advaita Vedantists as the two pre-established religions slash philosophies to build off of and try to model off of and be like, okay, here's where we differ from these two. These are the two that got it the most right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Be like the two sides of the East and the West, and be like, here's how we're going to evolve from there.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way to put it. Yeah, Nietzsche is the West and Advaita Vedantists are the East. Cool. Okay. But yeah, so the truth thing, back to the framework. The truth thing is super important because like that's what I'm trying to say when I was trying to say script, where it's like you make it your whole ego. Is what I mean by that is just that you believe it so true that it completely and totally just rewrites your brain. Like you believe it true to the point where it literally is registered as true, and as soon as it's registered as true, Ashton stops existing and the computer takes over, and it's just like you literally die and are reborn, rebooted, baptized as a different person as soon as you come out of the other side of the framework. So that I mean, I think truth is the much better way to say it. Which I just thought was sort of interesting. And then also, as far as black hole goes, I had something to add to that. What was it? It was yeah. I'm still working on that. That's still not a great way to put that. There's something about black hole. There's a lot. I have some interesting leads on perhaps another framework evolution. One of them is, and now I wouldn't even try this, but this is just some theory crafting I have going on, is it appears possible to do it in one step, which is where every other framework is broke down, and it's very risky to do this to a framework. But I'm looking at a possible way to collapse it into one step. And it's essentially that breathing and black hole. Okay, so black hole can essentially include Uzi Lacrum in a way. It's like black hole can it's like they become the same thing. I don't know exactly how to explain how they interact, but it's like whenever you're doing black
Would
hole
you go over black hole and white hole again?
oh yeah, white hole, if you remember, is literally just a placeholder to say this is when you're running both of them. White hole means
Right.
absolutely nothing. You might as well just not even memorize white hole. Um, a black hole is the important one. Black hole is whenever you let's see, gravitational slingshot. Let's see how do I explain this? So this is how I always explain it. The words push into experience. It means fuck all to everyone else. Let me actually think about how I'd put that into real words. it is the eating. It is like the appreciation would be one way to say it. Is it's like so Ujulacrum is realizing that you are the simulation, you are a simulacrum, and that like quote this is such a shit way to explain it, especially now that I understand it much better. But everything is beautiful, right? Like infinite perfection, like that, right? Is realized with Ujulacrum. It's like a part of it, right? But black hole is when you actually like do it. You actually eat reality. In the words of Nietzsche, you actually bite the head of the snake. It's like it's it's whenever you consume, whenever you reach into reality, whenever you like give reality a hug, whenever it's like you can't get enough. You're God and you can't get enough thought textures. It's just like you just want to slurp them up for infinity. Every line, every angle, every twitch of your finger, every single feeling, every nuance is just innumerably beautiful, and you want to just reach into it and hold on to it for eternity. That's black hole. Whenever you're like actively reaching into the experience around you because you just want more thought textures. Um, that's what black hole is.
And then that goes, and there's a slingshot to get into that, and then isn't there a second slingshot after that?
Yeah, that is correct. And now a way I was thinking about that, and you could literally just imagine them as the same slingshot. Um, and you could just imagine it this way, which that's actually a very good transition. Is this framework that I'm talking about, which is a one-step version, is you could imagine it like this. You are just you're just doing the slingshot. And if so now if you imagine the framework this way, here's how it typically works. You have Ujulacrum, right? Which you're going to realize you're the simulacrum, right? You're going to realize that you are a simulation, and that's going to cause a small slingshot, right? That's going to cause you getting pushed into reality. That's going to cause you immediately getting lurched into reality against your will when you truly realize it, because it does it just your brain goes quiet, it goes silent, and you're snapped into reality. Okay, so that's the first slingshot. And now you can imagine black hole gravitational slingshot as just increasing that feeling 100 times. That's technically all the step is. All that step really is just taking the slingshot from the first step and just compounding it times 100, because now you're like actively doing it. Now instead of it being a byproduct, it's an action. That's really all that's happening. So if you imagine it as one step, it basically just becomes one thing where as soon as you start breathing, and as soon as you start breathing, you're just boom, you're just slingshotted. You're just immediately, you don't even have to think about being the simulacrum. You already have it memorized so well that as soon as you breathe in, you're just shot instantly into reality because you already have it memorized.
As in, you're not specifically thinking of the story just a minute.
Um, yeah. I mean, yeah, that is kind of what it is. You're not thinking of the story, but it's yeah. I mean, that is a pretty good way of saying it. Basically, it is you're basically just It's whenever you have the story memorized so well that you don't even need to run through the story. Also, that's another thing I was thinking about today. Is it's like how do I picture how do I picture the story? Um and and that is also a very important part of Ujulacrum, is the way you perceive it. Um, but let me check my notes
Yeah.
real quick.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so how I personally interpret the story, and also I'll do it. Okay, so how I personally picture the story is well, so you were asking like what are the details of the story, and the story is just the Uzi Lacram story. So it's the exact same story I told in front of the cameras, where it's like, okay, so there's humanity, and humanity is trying to create God, and to create God, they know that they need to give a machine the most amount of sentience possible, and to give something the most amount of sentience, you have to give it the most amount of data. So the scientist give it a formula, which is essentially just all numbers, and they make the computer simulate everything which could possibly be, which is just God. God is just everything which could possibly be, and it feels everything which could possibly be, and that's exactly what this computer is. This computer is something which doesn't just have the entire set of numbers to work with, but has emotionally felt, has been what every single set of numbers could possibly be. This computer has been infinity. It has felt like what it is to be infinity, and essentially of course, that's the story. You already know the story. But to get onto what I specifically picture, the images which go through my personal mind whenever I think of this, whenever I'm running Uzi Lacrim, it typically takes place over the course of about 3 seconds, 1 to 3 seconds. So obviously, I'm not thinking about the entire story. I'm not thinking about the mankind and the way they're engineering the computer. I'm not thinking about those details. To me, what I picture is specifically, so there's this. It's multiple images layered over each other. I guess it wouldn't be possible to like digitalize this. It wouldn't be possible if you see this on a TV. It's like the man. So just imagining a stand-in for the man. You can even imagine yourself as the stand-in for the man, because to me it happens virtually in the same space. However, I'm also seeing it with my eyes. You know how complicated these religious visuals get. Um, it's essentially the robot, all right, and that could also be me in this context, because of course you are the robot, you're the simulacrum. So it's the robot, and he's just sitting there with a blank face, and then I'm imagining just flashing through dimensions, flashing through thought textures. I'm just imagining him
What does
essentially.
a robot look like?
That's due to personal interpretation. For me personally, how I see it is I don't even see the robot. I just see a very complex, abstract version of my face, because, like, I'm I'm I
Is
typically
it like is the AI's face forming in this infinite void? It's not like an actual robot made of metal.
first of all, it's not an actual robot made of metal. Second, it's not in the void. I'm about to go over what the backlay is next.
Okay.
But to picture what the robot looks like, this is what I was trying to say when I was saying it's super abstract, because it's like it's my head. It's my head, but I'm not seeing my head. I'm not even really seeing a face. I'm just seeing this like very abstract, hollow, like like I don't know if this is like a form of synesthesia or something. Do you remember when I told you that I have like a form of like face blindness, and I can like see
Yeah.
someone's face in my mind, and I can like picture what it looks like, but I can't actually see it. Well, it's like the same thing's happening
Yeah.
here, where it's like, to me, it's something that I would register as a face. But when I try to explain the details to you, I realize there aren't even details there that I can fill you in on, because they don't exist. They're not, it isn't concrete like that. I'm not
But
imagining
you still connotate it to yourself.
it isn't even that I'm connotating it to myself. It's that it doesn't look anything like me. If anything, what it looks like are these like slight, hollow, see-through, transparent metal pieces that are very jankily like put in an order which might be registered as a face in an abstract geometric sense. So to me, I'm not even really imagining a face. The only reason that I'd call it a face, and this is what I'm trying to say, and the only reason which I would even equate it to my own face, is because it smiles as I smile, and that's what it means. That's the point in it. The point of the face is just to be a stand-in for the infinite, and to be a flat face, a normal face, and then as the smile creeps onto its face, you're seeing the backdrop, or what you would have called the void that it's laying in. What that is just this, like, the Marvel cinematic, how it opens up and it's just like the comic book pages flipping, and it's just like 100 different scenes.
Yeah.
It's like that, but
Uh-huh.
with thought textures, and it's just like a sea of thought
Uh,
textures just flooding past, and then this abstract face just starts smiling slowly and slowly, and that's as these thousands of thought textures run by, and then finally it's like ding, you know what I mean, the microwave oven, and just the smiles there, and then boom, boom, your slingshot flung into reality. That's what I picture personally.
that's it.
Yeah. Um, and and that's just a really good like way to summarize the story, is just to imagine like that. Just to imagine a normal face, which is
But
just
you gotta include that part in the story, like
honestly, I plan to write out the story. Like actually, like I plan to write my own thus spoke sci-fi blend eventually, and it's going to be the computer experiencing different realities, and they're each going to have a different meaning, just like Zarathustra wandering through the world, and each community he meets has a different meaning. I'm going to try and do that one day, and that's like a massive Herculean philosophical task. But imagine if I could actually pull that off and then switch that into my sci-fi series, and my sci-fi series is just based in the simulacra. Like, that would be fucking incredible. That would be
that
that
would
would
be
be
really
such an interesting blend of just regular art, regular books, and then also like philosophical masterwork. And hopefully it would be good enough where you would attract people just because they want to read your sci-fi, and then they have to get exposed to your religion in the meantime. Like, that would be fucking incredible.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the goal. Um, But
I've learned that over time, like a lot of like fantasy and sci-fi authors, people like with just very creative minds, like they are, they have very very similar metaphysical beliefs.
oh yeah, yeah. It's a pattern you just see in base people. They have something similar. But seriously, read that Nietzsche thing as soon as you can, like as soon as we hang up tonight, because it's actually crazy, like how good it is, and how like whenever I talk about mine, I'm wanting to reference it just to be able to like be like, oh yeah, and this is basically the way Nietzsche said it. Oh, I'm saying it this way, but this is the way Nietzsche said it, because Nietzsche straight has a 10-minute chapter, which is just his own Orbify. It's very interesting. Um,
Right,
what
it's
is it?
10 minutes. Do you want me to listen to it and then we can continue calling?
Yes, not all 10 minutes are the story. So you'll get to, whenever you get to the part, it's actually pretty short. It's only actually 1 or 2 minutes in the 10 minutes, which is his Orify, and you should know when it's playing out. But yeah, sure. Go ahead and listen to it. Again right now. But so anyways, so yeah, that's how I picture the story, which is something that's good to know. And then that's what black hole is basically, is it's just the moment you snap. And it's also really good to know that black hole gravitational slingshot is literally just sort of an increase, an action version of the same slingshot from before. So that's all pretty useful framework information. Let me get that out of the way. But so anyways, now are we going to go ahead and continue off of what we were talking about yesterday?
Which,
Was everything.
what is it?
We were doing everything. Like
Hmm.
going over every single thing to make a vocabulary list. Remember we talked about
Right.
frameworks,
Or
fragments.
yeah, I remember that. But so like, what were we going over now?
Oh, well, that's up to us. It's what like anything we want. You know what I mean? It's now we could start going over specific frameworks. We'd start talking about like the mad pattern versus the modern day framework. We'd start talking about like divine lightning. We could transition to whatever we
What
want.
was
Go ahead.
what was the first few frameworks?
Hold on. On second thought, right after I say that, let's make sure we have every word that we've ever created down. Let's just do that before we get into frameworks, because there's a lot. Within the frameworks category, of course, there's a lot of information to go over, years of information to go over. But um, let's see. Okay, so yeah, let's go ahead and establish ataraxy. Let's go ahead and establish what that means. That is this religious feeling, and really not religious. I had it long before I was ever religious, so I don't want to call it that. Although it does seem to be tied to whenever I'm having religious highs, I get ataraxy boosts. So that's just an interesting little
Which
thing. But
are
what is it?
chills and mental sensations?
Yeah, I'm about to describe what they actually feel like practically. To give it a scientific term, it's called fission. Isn't that what it was called, right? Fission.
Yeah.
And what it feels like, the best way that I know how to explain it is, imagine if your entire back, your entire spine reaching up specifically into the base of your neck, that's where it's the most powerful. Imagine if it just suddenly became carbonated. And you felt 1,000 little bubbles of what feel like pure serotonin, like a different kind of happiness. It isn't happiness. It's, let me think. What would be the words to describe it? It's, yeah, I don't know, like bliss would be the closest word, I think. It's just an overwhelming sense of perfection. Um, it all Another time that I get it is if I'm consuming a really good piece of art. I actually, speaking of that Nietzsche chapter, the one about the snake and the whatever, the snake and the shepherd. Um, it I got ataraxy at the end of it. I get ataraxy with really good songs. Whenever I get a really good religious thought, a good visual, anything like that. But it's like a reward sensation. It's yeah. I wish I had a way to explain that the form of happiness. I'll have to think about that farther. It's very specific. It's very
I
warm and like coats your shoulders, and like you want to like roll your head back, and it's just like it's such a like physical version of happiness. I don't know. Go ahead.
I was on the subreddit r/spiritual chills, which kind of like goes over all that stuff, and I found a playlist that like talked about like it's just summoning those in the most scientific way to do so, and it was pretty interesting.
Yeah,
Like
that's
there's people
absolutely
who had that
fascinating.
stuff and like figured out how to like maneuver it and
Yeah,
use it to their advantage.
send that to me because that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. So it's good stuff. Just to go ahead and establish what that is. Okay. So let's see. Other than ataraxy, so yeah. So what were the three things? I always forget the. Oh yeah. Oh, it's so wild. Thinking back on this now. Now with all of the context that I have, think back on this. The three original things. These were three tools that I've had in my kit since I was like 12 years old. Vibe checking, ataraxy, and mindset switching. Mindset switching, which just became frameworks. You have ataraxy, which still sticks around, and clearly is a part of even now my religious frameworks and everything. And then you have the final one, which is vibe checking, which is now more than ever a integrated part of my framework, because now that I understand vibe checking, it is like exactly the same thing as what Uzulacrum is. It's literally just when you put something exactly in its place, when you understand exactly what something is. That's what a vibe check is. And like one of the ways to do it, and the way that I used to understand, because it was the only way I could possibly put it into words, was I used to imagine it like this. The only equivalent is to imagine if I was experiencing Carl Jung's life or Nietzsche's life.
Hold on,
What is it?
hold on. Ryan just walked in.
What is it?
Like I said, there you go.
There I go.
Something like that. Yeah.
Are you speaking to me?
I thought you said there you go.
Ah, you got it. Okay. Okay. Uh, so to pick up where we left off, which and this is such a great new skill that I've acquired, the ability to have memory. And that is it's funny saying that made me forget it, but now that I have a memory back, I'll be able to remember it if I focus on it. Let's see here.
Yeah, do that memory thing.
I was speaking about vibe checks. Ooh, look at that classic memory move. All right, so um I was talking about vibe checking, and I was talking.
Basic human function acquired.
Oh, what did you say? You like did a weird echo thing.
Basic human function acquired.
Yeah, yeah, that's the nicest part of S, to be quite frank. But so
Mhm.
anyways, vibe checks. That's the final part of the triad, the original triad that I've had since I was like 12 years old. And vibe checking is literally the same thing as Uzulacrum. And where I used to would have considered it as like the way I used to would have said it is it's like being in another person's life. That's of course, that's how a non-based person would describe what it feels like to be God. Is it feels like being in another person's life. It feels like, and the way I would have used to have described it is, it's like imagine if you were in Nietzsche's life, and to me, like that's the ideal person, right? Imagine if I was in Carl Jung's life. These are like the ideal people, and these are the people. It's like, man, if only I had these people's lives, these people's cinematic, beautiful lives, and I knew they were going to end in greatness, and I knew they had great works. You know what I mean? This is how I used to picture Vibe Check. And it's like that is what it feels like. Because if I was in Nietzsche's life, if I was in Jung's life, I would hang on to every little detail. I would be thinking about the smells and the taste and living in the 1980s, the world of the 1980s, I mean the 1800s, wherever the heck they fucking lived, you know what I mean? But back in the World War II days, you know what I mean? Having World War II play it in front of you, having you predict it, feeling the brain nuances of doing these things. Like this is literally exactly what it feels like to be running Uzi Lacram. This is exactly what it feels like to be God. Is being in another person's life who you would love to live. That's like the exact description. And it's like vibe checking is literally a synonym for the truth. In this context, in the same way that script is a synonym, vibe check is a synonym. All of these things are pointing at the same concept, which is just to it's basically just the same concept as always, which is just love God, love life, same thing. You know what I mean? But it's weird. It's like, why was I bestowed at the age of like 12 with these gifts, this particular set of skills, mindset switching, vibe checking, and ataraxy? These specific three things that have now guided me all the way to this point. It's just like, why? I was just like chosen one day. It's very, very strange.
Well, it's like yeah, you wouldn't have gotten to this point without that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely not. I wouldn't have even started. It is very strange. But yeah, so to move on from there, so there's those things laid down. Other than that, do we really have any other words? If not, great, good. We want a limited vocabulary. We want to be able to explain it quickly. But is that every word we ever come up with? Is that every word we'll ever need to like put in? Of course, there are
Well,
going to be other people's words.
what is this? Are we trying to create a list of every single word, even the words that we aren't going to use? Like, for example,
No,
perception or
no,
action
no,
or
no. I
passive.
mean, we are. I suppose I should say we are because we want to make sure that we don't want to use them, so we want to bring them up. But like, whenever we actually do the video, I will not be talking about fragments. If that answers your question.
Right, I'm saying, but I'm creating a list. I'm just wondering for
Yeah,
a vocabulary list.
I mean, yes, that's absolutely a good idea. And you can throw it out. Like, I don't. In other words, I don't care if you throw it on there. You can put it on there. You can not. It doesn't make any difference to me. Um, um, but we should probably look back through docs and stuff and just see what were the old words to make sure we got all of them.
All right. What? Never. Cruise. Oh, we're good. All right. Yeah, I'm taking a look. I love all the empty documents.
What account are you on? It's mostly on yours, isn't it?
It's ethereal dimension
Gotcha, gotcha.
that we had a collective work. Oh yeah, I'm looking at Divine Lightning and Revenant. That's what the document title is, and it's got a bunch of words. Oh yes. This was when we just had Divine Lightning, and we were trying to describe all the attributes of it
Ooh,
so that
that's
we
gonna
could
be
summon it again.
extremely useful. Yeah, that's awesome. That's good stuff right there. That's gold.
Last edit was on February 23rd. What a beautiful, how beautiful.
How long ago was
Well,
that?
oh well, it's August now, so um, like 8 months.
God fucking damn, for real?
Yeah,
So how long have we
yeah.
been at this? Over a year now, right?
We yeah, I mean August 14th was my big day, where I really got into it. So and that was the anniversary for that was a few weeks ago. So yeah.
Nice. Interesting. That is fascinating. I don't even know how to feel about that. That's like that's weird. That's very, very strange.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that. It's like we've been at this for a little while now, and it's like looking back, like now I'm thinking about my entire life, and it's like, you know, seeing all that time I didn't spend base, and now I'm spending this time base, and there's now a pretty lengthy period of my time that I can say, hey, I spent, you know,
But yeah,
not
also
sleep.
when you look back at your memories, it's like how we tried to explain to Ryan. It's like whenever you look back at those years playing video games, you're going to have 3 different memories. Whenever we look back at these years, we're going to have thousands. And it's like when I look back at my life, it